Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the journalist and author Christina Patterson and former Conservative Special Advisor Anita Boateng. Welcome both. So let's see what is on some of those front pages. According to The Observer, the Israeli military is confident they'll be able to locate and kill Hamas leaders during their expected offensive in southern Gaza, in part because of the information they've gathered from people they've already captured in the north. The Telegraph says that Sir Keir Starmer has heaped praise on former Conservative leader Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, with the paper saying he's attempting to woo the right. The Times leads with the government spending extra cash to secure the Rwanda migration deal. The Sunday People speaks to the father of murder victim Elle Edwards, who expresses his horror that children as young as 9 are being drawn into a world of gun crime. After a difficult week for the House of Windsor, the Mirror proclaims royals unite in race row. Also covering royal matters, the Sunday Express has the headline, Charles, I'll never give up on Harry. While the Mail also leads with the royals reporting that Harry and Meghan were snubbed from the Duke of Westminster's wedding. And the Star describes the prospect of temperatures of minus 12 Celsius lasting until Christmas as the Polar Express. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code that you'll see on screen during the program, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Christina Patterson and Anita Boateng. Thank you both for being with us. Let's start straight away with front page of The Observer, focusing on the Middle East, as some of the other papers are, of course. The Observer headline, Israel using Hamas prisoners to track down terror chiefs. Anita, talk us through exactly how they plan to do this.
Yes, so the story is about how Israel's military chiefs are going to push into southern Gaza. They believe they've acquired some intelligence from some of the captives that have now been freed, and they're specifically aiming to target the leaders of Hamas, in particular Yahya Sinwar, obviously the actual leader, that they think will cause a kind of collapse in the organisation. Now, this is incredibly challenging to actually deliver, and actually there is no guarantee that with the structure of Hamas and its military wing that targeting a few officials is going to eradicate Hamas as a significant force. And so the Observer also covers off the fact that the challenges over the truce, which has obviously not held, and the pressure and hardening of language on both sides to sort of blame the other side for why the truce hasn't held. So overall, a fairly bleak story, even in the context of how they are targeting now some of the leaders in the hope that that changes the balance in this conflict.
And of course, a lot of the senior leadership isn't in Gaza at all. I mean, we see them, for example, in Doha, in Qatar, and other countries as well. But I guess, Christina, there's a pressure now for Israel to give some kind of strategy of what they're going to do as this ceases.
Well, I think they have been under enormous pressure from Biden, absolutely rightly, to reduce civilian casualties because more than 15,000 civilians have been killed in Gaza, most of them women and children, and it is an absolute tragedy. And I think the whole situation is just so tragic because one fully understands why Israel wants to wipe out Gaza, Gaza wants to wipe out Israel, and what Hamas wants to wipe out Hamas. And what Hamas did on the 7th of October was horrendous, and further details emerge all the time of quite how horrendous that was. The key issue, apart from killing an enormous number and injuring an enormous number of civilians and making them homeless, is there an achievable goal here? And it's very hard to see how this is achievable because it is literally, in a sense, like looking for a needle in a haystack. And what Israel seems to be doing is destroying the haystack in order to get to the needles. And it seems they've actually killed a relatively small number of Hamas fighters so far. Estimates are 5,000 to 10,000 of about 40,000. And they've just expelled everybody from North Gaza. So there are currently about, I think, 1.5 million people who are now homeless in Gaza. And now they're telling them that they have to leave South Gaza or targeted bits of South Gaza. So It's very hard to see what's going to happen to those people beyond tragedy, really, either illness, disease, homelessness, refugeedom, or death or injury. And also, it's very hard to see how that is going to achieve any military aims. So I think unless there is diplomacy is what is ultimately going to solve this, and that is going to have to be the Arab states with America, and ultimately one hopes with a different leader to Netanyahu.
Yeah, a political solution rather than a military one. Let's go to the Sunday Times. On the front page, an article by Christina Lamb, who's of course their foreign correspondent, and it says, "I saw Hamas rape women before killing them." That's according to a massacre survivor. And Christina Lamb has done a lot of work on how rape is often used, very, very often used as a weapon of war in many wars. What does this article, what stood out?
Yeah, I mean, fair warning, it's pretty harrowing account of one of the survivors of the massacre at the Supernova Festival, who talks of seeing up to 10 Hamas fighters beating and raping a woman who was begging for them to kill her. So, I mean, that's just the opening paragraph. It really takes you through some of the instances of women attempting to be beheaded, the number of women, of bodies that were recovered that saw evidence of rape. And it turns to two sort of elements of this conflict, really, which is partly the role of the UN. So there has been some criticism of the UN in not highlighting the particular gender-based violence that women have undergone as a result of this conflict. And it also kind of speaks to some of the despair that centres around the broader feminists who have been trying to kind of raise the profile of this particular component, and the continued concern that women are going to continue to be targeted as part of this conflict. But ultimately, definitely one that it's worth reading in full, because it's something that we can't turn our faces away from.
Because actually it was interesting when the UN has come under accusations that they've kind of ignored this aspect, and Antonio Guterres tweeted something about the need for more investigations a few days ago. Exactly. I mean, October 7th was so horrific and then so much happened, but do you agree that this aspect was sort of overlooked, whether intentionally or not?
Totally. And Christina Lamb has done extensive work on rape as a weapon of war, and she even wrote a book about it. Very harrowing book. But I have to say, the silence of the left on this issue has been utterly disgraceful. Where have all those Me Too women been? Where have all those people been who, more than happy to call out some ageing news presenter or actor who's, made some predatory comments or whatever? And here is an absolute atrocities, literal atrocities that have happened, and people have been silent on it. And Antonio Guterres' statement was far too late. In fact, the impression the UN has given from the beginning is that it only cares about the Palestinians. Everyone should care about the Palestinians. This is an absolute catastrophe. But they should care about any Israeli who is murdered or raped. But these were peace campaigners. The utter irony here is that these are the most left-wing Israelis you could find. They were devoted to peace. They wanted a two-state solution, and they lost their lives and were raped. It is just horrendous.
Let's go to the front page of the Times now. Rwanda to get extra £15 million to seal the migration deal. A few days ago, there was a story that the Rwanda government was sort of losing heart with the deal, as many are. Anita, what did you make of it?
Yes, I mean, I think it's hard to believe that 15 million is the thing that's going to unlock the Gordian knot that is this entire conflict. So far, the UK government is believed to have given around £140 million to Rwanda. So the idea of this 15 million is to support extra kind of asylum processing. And really, this story is not really about the money. It's about the kind of number of things that the government is going to be trying to do in the next week or so to be able to make progress on this deal. And so we're expecting that a treaty to be signed, and perhaps the new Home Secretary, James Cleverly, will be flying over to Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, to maybe sign this treaty. Then you've got the presentation, hopefully, of legislation to Parliament. But it's very clear that there is quite a journey for the government to go on now to be able to make this deal a reality. And it's not clear, certainly to me, that this treaty or this legislation is going to convince Supreme Court justices that now this scheme is a goer.
Now, we have 1 minute left, but there's a story that I think is surprising. Front page of the Sunday Telegraph. Starmer piles praise on Thatcher to woo the right. Christina, did this surprise you?
It did surprise me, and I'm sure that the Corbynistas will be going completely mad, although they went mad a long time ago. But the thing is, Starmer wants to win. That is what's clear. He wants to win. He will do what it takes to win. Unless they win, they can't do anything. And he's got a lot he wants to do with the Labour Party. There is a broken country here that needs mending. And I think at least Margaret Thatcher, I hated her politics, but at least she was someone. She was dynamic, she was energetic, she got things done, she had a vision, and it wasn't all about her. It was about what she wanted to achieve for the country. And boy, did she achieve a lot. I didn't like what she achieved, but I think Keir Starmer is rightly trying to woo the Red Wall, the centre-right, and let's hope it helps.
Anita, do you think this stuff works, though? Is he going to manage to woo the right?
It's quite a naked attempt to woo the right, so I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's whether it's convincing in the context of some of the other strong leaders, and honestly, whether he measures up.
All right, Anita, Christina, we're going to have to leave it there. We will come back with more of the day's papers. Coming up, the households of the King and the Prince of Wales are said to be holding talks after allegations of racism resurfaced this week. We'll discuss that next. Welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me now, Christina Patterson and Anita Boateng. Thank you both for being with us. Okay, let's go straight to the Sunday Mirror, and a story actually that's been touched on by quite a lot of the papers. But front page here, Royals unite on race row, and that is, of course, the naming of the two royals that had been, well, allegedly, the interview that Meghan gave to Oprah that some people thought had racist elements. What have you made, Anita, of I guess, the response of the royal family so far?
Well, it's interesting. It's been quite a lot of... It's hard to tell whether this is all sort of deliberate briefing, but there is an element of that we can detect in the royals saying, we're going to rise above, we're going to unite, we're not going to rush, we're going to strategise. And this seems to have kind of captured the imagination of quite a lot of the front pages today. And it's really not clear to me how this has sort of significantly changed the dynamic of this story, which was obviously revealed quite a long time ago by the then Duchess of Sussex in the interview with Oprah. But it's clear that the papers are certainly choosing their sides, and there is quite a lot of criticism, I think, of Harry in his role in, I don't know, allowing this story to continue. I don't think there's a suggestion that they told this book that these were the two people that were involved in it, but it's all continuing to be as murky and as gossipy as ever, I think.
You mentioned that all the papers are taking a side. Let's take a look at the Sunday Telegraph, who also has it on their front page. And they're saying royal palaces to hold talks on racism claims. I guess what is different now is that there might be, we haven't seen it yet, not officially, but some kind of response from the people involved.
Yes, I very much doubt it will be. There have been sort of implicit threats of legal action, but I don't think that will happen. I don't think the royal family will take. I think that's always a low, and it never works out well for anyone. I disagree with Anita, actually. I think this really does matter because the accusation or the allegation is that the king is a racist. And number one, it overshadowed the most important speech of his life because he has literally spent his adult life fighting for the environment and climate change. I read the book he wrote, I can't remember what it's called now, with Tony Juniper about the environment some years ago. It was very good. He's extremely thoughtful and passionate about this. This was his moment to speak as a head of state to the world about the issue he is most passionate about, and all anyone wanted to talk about was the fact that he'd been named in this Dutch copy of the book and was therefore racist, or the allegation was that he was racist. So I think that does matter. And I think beyond the kind of soap opera of, who is or isn't getting on with each other in the family, I think it really matters that whether the king is deemed racist, because I think it's another issue he's been absolutely passionate about. He started the Prince's Trust, which is a deeply un-racist charity and has helped many, many, many young people from inner-city backgrounds, many of them people of colour, get a start in life. And, he's been passionate about the Commonwealth and so on. So my personal belief is he is not racist. But I think the other the other issue that hasn't been properly addressed here, and it may be that there's a generational element of this, is that in the Oprah interview, it was mentioned as concerns about the colour that Archie would be. Now, we don't know that there were concerns. There was probably a conversation. I think that's normal. All my friends who are in mixed marriages would have a conversation about, you know, they've got children of different colour. It's normal.
Let's look at the Sunday Express as well. Charles, I'll never give up on Harry. So it's here. And I guess this reminds you that there is a family, like an actual sort of normal family or within reason behind all of the headlines. Do you think it sort of resurrected that whole debate, Anita?
Well, I mean, I guess I just think there's less debate. I don't think there's a tension between someone campaigning for people from all sorts of backgrounds to thrive in recognising some of the structural barriers that certain races face and also asking questions that are offensive, that have a particular point of view of expressing concerns. I don't think there's a tension between those two things. I think you can be passionately, in principle, against all forms of discrimination and then do things that upset and offend people from different races, especially when that's not something you're familiar with. So to me, I think that given that they had made it very clear it wasn't the Queen of the late Queen involved in this, I think we all sort of thought who they might be, and it's not surprising that the names that have emerged.
Anita, Christina, thank you. Let me just bring you a very quick update on that story we're bringing you from Paris. We're now hearing that 1 dead and 2 people have been injured by an assailant. We heard that from the Interior Minister of the Interior Minister of France. The assailant is thought to have been attacking tourists, and the person who died is German. We'll, of course, bring you more developments on that story coming out of Paris as we get them. For the moment now, let's take a look at the weather.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, it's staying quite wintry, although the south won't be as cold today. There'll be a frosty start for many, although southern parts will see temperatures rising. The north looks mostly fine, but there will be outbreaks of rain in the south, while central parts can expect freezing fog, icy stretches, and some sleet and snow showers. The morning will stay mostly fine and cold in the north, although eastern Scotland can expect some wintry showers, while the south will be milder with rain at times. Wales and central England can expect some rain, sleet and snow too, and some lingering fog. But Ireland and Northern Ireland will see showers fading inland. The afternoon will bring little overall change.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, coming up next on Sky News at 11.